Usually when we talk about a massive corporate cyber attack,
Yeah.
there's this expectation of immediate visible chaos.
Oh, yeah, you picture the movie Bank Robbery, right?
Exactly. Like alarms blaring, servers locking down, screens turning red with, I don't know, some ominous skull logo.
Right, and the company instantly panicking because someone has loudly kicked the digital door in.
Yeah, but what about that silent heist?
Ah.
Where the burglar walks right through the front door, waves at the security guard, and just completely empties the vault.
And the bank doesn't even know they've been robbed until the thief politely calls them a few days later to ask for a payoff.
Which is wildly exactly what just happened to 6.2 million customers of the Dutch telecom Odido.
It really is. I mean, the modern threat landscape has shifted dramatically away from operational disruption, and it's moved toward quiet extraction.
So the technical alarms never even trip because, well, the attackers don't actually break the system.
No, they don't. They just log in, they take what they want, and they leave without a trace.
Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft. Whether you are a seasoned tech professional catching up on industry news, or you are just intensely curious about how the digital world actually works behind the scenes, you're in the exact right place.
We are super glad to have you with us today.
Today, we are analyzing a major, rapidly developing story out of Europe, and we're going to do it without overwhelming you with jargon. We are looking at a colossal data breach at Odido, the mobile phone carrier, formerly known as T-Mobile Netherlands.
And based on recent reporting in SecurityWeek and other sources, this is a big one.
It really is. So our mission today is to unpack the timeline of this attack, rigorously analyze the exact nature of the compromised data, and explore this really unusual silence from the threat actors involved.
Yeah, because the timeline and the target selection here provide this masterclass in how modern threat actors operate. We really aren't looking at a brute force attack on a core database here.
Right. We are looking at a highly targeted strike on the human element of the organization. But before we detail what was stolen, we need to establish the sheer scale of the incident.
Definitely.
Because it really explains why this specific breach demands your attention. So, the attack occurred recently, specifically over the weekend of February 7th and 8th, 2026.
And it impacted customers of both the primary Odido brand and its subsidiary, Ben.
Yeah, and the initial company notice stated over 6 million customers were impacted. But a company representative reportedly told local media that the number is actually roughly 6.2 million.
Which is just a staggering footprint.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. I mean, 6.2 million people is essentially more than a third of the entire population of the Netherlands.
Wow. Yeah, that puts it into perspective.
It's like a bad weather system that somehow managed to rain on almost half the country's digital front porches at exactly the same time. If you walk onto a commuter train in Amsterdam tomorrow, statistically, 1 in every 3 people sitting in that car just had their foundational identity documents stolen.
And what's fascinating here is that this massive footprint is a direct result of where the attackers aimed. They didn't compromise the core telecommunications infrastructure.
So the cell towers and routing switches are fine.
Exactly. The core network backbone, all of that remained completely untouched. Instead, they hit a customer contact system.
A customer contact system. Okay, why that specific target?
Well, when threat actors target a customer service silo, it yields a very specific, very concentrated data set. Customer service reps need immediate access to comprehensive user profiles, right?
Right, to verify who they're talking to and fix issues quickly.
Exactly. That system is inherently designed for fast data retrieval, which makes it an absolute goldmine if an unauthorized user gains access.
So if they have unhindered access to this specific silo, how do they actually get in? I mean, you'd assume a telecom giant operating at a national scale would have massive digital walls.
You would think so, yeah.
We're talking zero trust architectures, strict multi-factor authentication, robust endpoint detection.
Sure, but technology can only protect you up to the point where an authorized human overrides it. Reports allege that the attackers in this incident are linked to the notorious group Shiny Hunters.
Oh, wow. Shiny Hunters.
Yeah, and they didn't burn a highly sophisticated multi-million-dollar zero-day exploit to break through Odido's firewalls. They just used social engineering.
So they bypassed the technological tech entirely by manipulating the people who manage it.
Precisely. Specifically, they utilized phishing, and they actually impersonated internal IT staff to bypass the multi-factor authentication.
That is wild. We spend millions on these complex security architectures, but if an attacker just calls the help desk, sounds confident, and convincingly asks for an MFA reset.
The walls come tumbling down.
It really highlights the vulnerability of the human firewall.
It does, because help desks and customer support centers are, by definition, structurally designed to be helpful.
Right, their whole job is to fix things fast.
Yeah, their primary performance metric is usually how quickly they can resolve an internal issue and get an employee back to work. And threat actors absolutely know this.
So how does that call actually play out?
Well, an attacker impersonating IT might call an employee, claim there is, say, a critical synchronization error on their account, and send a fraudulent MFA prompt under the guise of testing the connection.
And the employee, just assuming they're interacting with a colleague trying to fix a problem, they approve the prompt.
Exactly. The technology functioned perfectly, it verified the prompt was approved, but the human context was entirely fraudulent.
And once inside, the attacker essentially inherits the legitimate privileges of that compromised employee.
They sure do.
Which brings us to the actual payload, because once they were inside that customer contact system, they had access to a very specific inventory of data.
A very dangerous inventory.
According to the disclosure, the hackers stole an incredibly detailed list of personal information. We are talking names, home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, customer numbers, bank account numbers, and crucially,
This is the really bad part.
yeah, the linchpin of the whole disaster passport or driver's license numbers, along with their exact validity dates.
That combination of data points represents a complete self-contained identity package. It is far more dangerous than, a simple database dump of emails and passwords.
Well, let's look at what the company noted they didn't get. The mobile phone services themselves were not impacted. And importantly, no user passwords were stolen.
Right.
No call records, no text message logs, and no invoice or billing data were compromised. Odido really emphasized this point.
Of course they did. It sounds like good news.
But here's where it gets really interesting. They bypassed the highly sensitive call logs and passwords, but grabbed all the foundational identity documents. It's like a burglar sneaking into your house, completely ignoring your diary and your keys, but running off with your filing cabinet and your bank statements.
That is a perfect analogy.
So I have to ask, does the fact that passwords weren't taken make this less severe, or is the ID data actually a bigger nightmare for these 6.2 million people?
Oh, the loss of the ID data is unequivocally the larger disaster. Think about it. Passwords are inherently transient.
Right, they're meant to be changed.
Exactly. They are dynamic security controls designed to be discarded. If a database of passwords leaks today, the company just forces a mandatory global reset.
You type in a new string of characters, and the stolen data becomes entirely worthless to the attacker in a matter of seconds.
Right. It really is like changing the locks on your front door. But the data stolen from Odido, your date of birth, your national identity number, your passport number, the validity dates of those documents, your bank account details, these are completely static.
You can't exactly just update your date of birth.
No, you can't. They are the foundational anchors of your societal identity. You cannot simply log into a government portal and click reset on your passport history.
Replacing a government ID is a massive bureaucratic headache. You have to physically go to an office, prove who you are all over again, pay fees, and wait weeks.
And even then, your historical data is still intrinsically tied to you.
But are they going to use these passports to open fraudulent credit cards? Or is there a bigger secondary market for this? Because a passport number alone, without the physical book, doesn't get you through airport security.
Well, they don't need to get through an airport. They need to get through automated digital verification systems. The financial sector relies heavily on Know Your Customer, or KYC, regulations. When you open an account at an online bank, a cryptocurrency exchange, or a brokerage, the institution doesn't see you in person.
Right. They rely on cross-referencing the data you provide against government and credit databases.
Exactly. So if an attacker has your real name, address, date of birth, bank account number, and the exact validity dates of your passport, they possess the perfect recipe to defeat modern KYC algorithms.
Wow. So they aren't just stealing your identity, they're essentially cloning it. They can spin up an entirely parallel digital life.
That is the ultimate goal. With a complete package, which is often referred to on the dark web as fool's a malicious actor, doesn't bother trying to hack into your existing Odido account or your current checking account.
Because that carries too much risk of triggering an alert.
Exactly. Instead, they go to a completely different financial institution and open a brand new account in your name. They apply for high-yield loans, they establish lines of credit, they use your pristine financial history to extract cash.
And you remain completely unaware until the collection agencies start calling months later.
Yep. Untangling that type of synthetic identity fraud requires hundreds of hours of legal wrangling, and it can ruin a person's credit standing for years.
So, while Odido is technically accurate in reassuring people that their account passwords are safe, the attackers walked away with an asset that is infinitely more valuable and permanent.
Without a doubt.
That terrifying asymmetry in data value makes the company's response and the broader aftermath of this incident really critical to analyze.
Yeah.
Let's look at the immediate containment.
Okay.
Odido states that they immediately closed the attackers' access to their systems, implemented additional security measures, and notified the relevant regulatory and law enforcement authorities.
Which is standard, yeah.
Right. And they're actively notifying the affected users via email or phone, warning them to be on high alert for phishing attempts. They've also partnered with cybersecurity experts to monitor the dark web.
And what have they found so far?
Well, as of the reporting, they are currently not aware of the stolen information being published online.
And that right there, the absence of that data on the dark web, is the pivot point of the entire narrative.
What do you mean?
It tells us exactly what kind of operation we are observing. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains a lot.
Because that's the mystery of the missing threat actor. Right. Odido hasn't officially shared details on the threat actor in their public notice, and no known ransomware or extortion group appears to have publicly claimed responsibility for it on their leak sites.
Which is very unusual for a typical ransomware group.
Yeah. But reports allege that Odido only actually learned of the massive data theft when the attackers contacted them directly to launch an extortion attempt.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? They bypass the alarms, steal the data quietly, and then basically call the CEO. Usually, we hear about ransomware groups making massive public demands.
Right. They freeze the servers, put a countdown timer on a public leak site, and shame the company into paying.
But here, the systems are running perfectly fine, the data isn't leaked, and there's just silence. So they've done math. They know the regulatory fines are going to be catastrophic, don't they?
That is the exact leverage they are exploiting. We are witnessing a stark evolution in cyber extortion tactics here.
How so?
The traditional ransomware model, encrypting computers so a company cannot do business, is incredibly loud. It immediately brings the full weight of international law enforcement down on the hacking group because critical infrastructure is disrupted.
Sure, nobody can make phone calls, so the police get involved immediately.
Right. But the new model, which we see allegedly utilized by groups like Shiny Hunters, is pure data extortion. They don't break the network. Odido's mobile phones kept connecting to towers just fine.
The attackers quietly copied the database and slipped out the back door.
Yes. So the leverage is no longer pay us or your business stays offline. The leverage is pay us or we will unleash an absolute regulatory and public relations catastrophe upon you.
Let's dig into that regulatory doom. Because if they dump 6.2 million European citizens' passports and bank accounts online, the legal fallout for the telecom company has to be astronomical.
Oh, it is. The European regulatory environment is completely unforgiving when it comes to data protection.
We're talking about GDPR, right?
Yes. Under the General Data Protection Regulation, companies can face fines of up to 4% of their global annual revenue for failing to adequately protect consumer data.
Wait, 4% of global revenue? That is massive.
And that is just the baseline. You also have the Dutch Data Protection Authority stepping in to launch an independent investigation which carries its own penalties.
Plus, the inevitable class action lawsuits from the millions of victims whose static identities are now permanently at risk.
Exactly. The financial impact of the data becoming public easily stretches into the hundreds of millions of euros.
So the attackers are basically presenting a twisted business proposition. They're saying, we know a breach of this magnitude will cost you €500 million in fines, lawsuits, and brand damage. Pay us $20 million quietly, and we delete the data. It's a bargain.
It is a cold, calculated risk assessment forced upon the victim, and it entirely explains the public silence. The attackers do not want to publish the data yet.
Because the threat of publication is the only thing giving them leverage.
Exactly. If they dump it online out of frustration, Odido suddenly has absolutely no incentive to pay the extortion fee. The damage is already done.
Right. So the threat actors keep it quiet, they keep it off the public leak sites, and they attempt to negotiate in the shadows.
That's the play here.
But let's play this out. What if the company calls their bluff? Odido refuses to pay a dime, or the negotiations break down. Are the attackers just going to sit on a gold mine of 6.2 million passports? If they don't dump it publicly to shame the company, what is the secondary play?
Hoarding the data for private secondary exploitation is the highly probable backup plan.
Meaning they sell it quietly.
Yes. Even if the primary extortion against the corporation fails, this specific data set is incredibly valuable in the cybercriminal underground. They don't have to dump it publicly on a forum where security researchers can analyze it.
They could just sell it piecemeal to other criminals.
Right, they can quietly sell it in chunks to closed-door fraud rings who specialize in the identity cloning we discussed earlier, or even more insidiously, they can use it themselves to launch highly targeted secondary phishing campaigns against the Odido customers.
Wait, why use a leaked database for phishing, though? I mean, I get spam emails every day telling me my streaming account is locked, and I just ignore them.
You ignore them because they are generic and lack context. But imagine the scenario for these 6.2 million users.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
You know your data was compromised in the Odido breach, right? It's national news. 2 weeks later, you receive an email that appears to be from your primary bank.
And it says something like, "We noticed suspicious activity related to the recent telecom breach."
Exactly. Please click here to verify your account. But the reason this works is the attacker includes your actual real bank account number and the expiration date of your passport right there in the email body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That changes the psychology entirely. If I see an email with my actual passport expiration date in it, my brain immediately assumes it has to be legitimate. The level of trust is established instantly.
Exactly. The attackers leverage the static data stolen in the first breach to manufacture unquestionable trust. This lowers your guard, allowing them to extract the one thing they didn't get from Odido.
Your passwords.
Yes.
Hmm.
They use the static data to trick you into handing over the dynamic data. It is a vicious, compounding cycle of compromise that relies entirely on the fact that these foundational identifiers are implicitly trusted by both institutions and individuals.
It really paints a stark picture of just how fragile our entire digital ecosystem is. I mean, we trust these massive corporations with the foundational documents of our lives, and one successful, well-crafted phone call to an IT help desk can expose a third of a country's population.
It really fundamentally challenges how we think about security.
It absolutely does. So to quickly recap the ground we've covered today for you, we analyzed the colossal data breach at Odido, impacting roughly 6.2 million customers.
And the attackers, who are linked to shiny hunters, bypass technical defenses by leveraging social engineering and help desk impersonation to slip past multi-factor authentication.
Right. They targeted a customer contact system, completely ignoring changeable data like passwords, and instead extracted an absolute goldmine of static identity documents, passports, driver's licenses, and bank accounts.
And now the entire situation is shrouded in an unusual silence, driven by behind-the-scenes data extortion and the looming threat of massive regulatory and legal fallout across Europe.
Which really is a textbook case study demonstrating why the cybersecurity landscape is shifting. Protecting the perimeter is clearly no longer sufficient when the human element remains the most critical vulnerability.
And when the data itself has become the ultimate leverage.
As we wrap up this discussion, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah, because the Odido breach forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality about the architecture of trust. This raises an important question. What happens to the value of our digital identities when hackers realize that quietly hoarding static documents like passports and bank numbers is far more lucrative than stealing easily changeable passwords? How do we protect something we can't easily reset?
It's a critical question we all need to be asking ourselves, both as individual consumers navigating the digital world and as professionals architecting corporate infrastructure.
Absolutely.
If this story has you thinking about your own organization's vulnerabilities and perhaps realizing it's time to evaluate how you handle, segment, and protect sensitive data against the human element, we highly encourage you to visit www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your own security and IT needs. You can't just build a taller digital wall. You really have to plan for what happens when someone just talks their way through the front door. Thank you so much for tuning in to Tech Talks with Kinsoft.
Thanks for listening.
Stay safe out there, keep a close eye on your static data, and we will see you next time.